Take a look at these two men. When you look at these two guys, which one of them would you say makes more money and has a better job, if you had to take a guess? Most of us would choose Marcus, the taller guy on the right, and we definitely wouldn't be alone in that assumption. Let's see what random strangers on the street think these two do for a living based off their first impression of them.
First, tall man Marcus.
He's a lawyer, doctor, and there, accountant.
I would say he's an executive who likes sports.
Probably earns maybe about $500,000 a year.
I would say maybe 100,000 a year.
He looks like a tycoon.
Now short man Melvin.
He's little. Maybe a cook.
I think he's a quiet guy and he's not very happy. I think he's having a difficult situation right now.
Minimum wage, I guess, 20,000 a year.
On average, they credited Melvin with a meager $20,000 income and Marcus with a whopping $220,000, all thanks to a difference of 14 inches.
I wish I was his size, to tell you the truth.
Regardless of the claims that were unbiased, multiple studies show that that's not the case. When we're forming a first impression of someone and we observe some kind of initial attractive feature about them, like that they're beautiful, well-built, or taller than average, that single characteristic can make that person seem more appealing to us than they actually are in reality. For example, an attractive person may be perceived as interesting, ambitious, or funny, when in reality, they're none of those things. We just stamp those qualities on them because we liked that one single characteristic about them, their beauty. The reason for this phenomenon is because of a cognitive bias we have called the halo effect.
The halo effect is a cognitive bias in which your brain allows specific positive traits to positively influence your overall evaluation of a person.
When we are given a positive characteristic that we like, it can affect our perception in a way that increases the attraction of all other attributes or blinds us to any negative ones. We ignore negative comments because they don't fit with the positive quality we associate with that person.
The halo effect is basically when a single aspect of a person intrigues us so much that it affects how we see the full picture of that person. We tend to create an overall impression of someone's personality or characteristics based on one unrelated trait. The term halo effect was coined in 1920 by Edward Thorndike, an American psychologist. It's based on an experiment Thorndike did where he observed military officers ranking their subordinates. The officers were asked to judge the subordinates before actually communicating with any of them. Basically, they only saw the officers and were asked to make a first impression. And based on the results, Thorndike said that positive and negative traits formed by the officers were based on unrelated traits that had to do with physical appearance. For example, a tall and attractive subordinate was perceived as being the most intelligent. He was also ranked as overall better than the other subordinates. Thorndike found that physical appearances are the most influential thing in determining our overall impressions of another person's character. While this may be the first time you're hearing about the halo effect, it's present in just about every aspect of our daily life. For instance, at work, we may judge coworkers based on how they look or how they dress, and we form an overall positive or negative opinion about them based on that one characteristic without actually knowing them. Advertisers also take advantage of the halo effect. This is why they use celebrities to promote products. All that needs to register is a pretty face linked with a product they're holding, and then the halo effect goes to work on us at a subconscious level, transferring our favorable thoughts about that person to the product they're holding, even though rationally we know one has nothing to do with the other. You can see the halo effect at work all over the grocery store as well. Did you ever notice most food packaging nowadays will have the one or two positives about that food plastered on the front of it? Low fat, no sugar, good source of calcium. Even though the food is terribly unhealthy, they'll put that one single little positive thing about it stamped on the front because they know we have these biases working in our head. If we see that label, good source of calcium, fiber, whatever, they know that having that one little thing stamped on the front can make us justify eating it because it's a good source of that one single thing. Now let's talk about the most interesting part of the halo effect, about how it makes us view beauty and status. Beauty and status are the most common examples of the halo effect at work. It's probably fair to say that most of us view celebrities in a favorable light, and an enormous amount of studies show we undoubtedly view good-looking people as more pleasant, honest, and competent.
We know that people who are physically attractive, though, are given the benefit of doubt by other people. They benefit from the positive halo effect, and the positive halo effect is the propensity of people to assume good things about someone if there is one outstanding thing about them that's easily evident, that's good. If you are characterized by a plethora of those features, then people are also going to assume that you're more competent and more worth having around, let's say.
Most research shows we're all influenced positively or negatively by the sex appeal of others. And on top of that, studies also say we show higher awareness to the personality traits of beautiful people, meaning we focus on their favorable qualities faster than we normally would, and even tend to embellish those favorable qualities. The saying "love at first sight" is a perfect example of the halo effect. We'll link the person's physical appearance to other positive traits that we don't know if they have or not. Having a conversation with someone you're highly attracted to can almost give you an illusion about that person. We won't really know if that stranger we just met is really that great, or if it was just the halo effect working an angle on us. There is good news though, the halo effect isn't forever lasting. As you might have expected, forming long-term relationships reduces the halo effect. New information along with time allows us to see a more accurate picture of that person. Most people will only indulge in the pleasure of supermodel looks for a short period of time before the important qualities start to take priority. It's also important to know that the halo effect can work in both the positive and the negative. When our first impression of someone creates a negative perception of that person, it's sometimes referred to as the horns effect or the negative halo effect. The horns effect is dealt with the same way. Basically, just give the person we have a negative view of the opportunity for us to make a better assessment of them. For example, I really didn't like this guy too much when I first heard him. My first impression of him was basically this.
The real reason I keep this Lamborghini here is that it's materialistic, because it wasn't that long ago that I was in a little Lamborghini across the country, but you know what? Something happened that changed my life. I bumped into a Lamborghini and another Lamborghini, a few more Lamborghini, found 5 Lamborghini, and they showed me my garage. Again, it's not just about knowledge, it's about money.
But then I heard him on an hour-long podcast and my initial impression of him changed. Time plus new information is what changes our initial impression of somebody. Now, knowing about this bias, we can use it to our advantage. The first thing to note is that everybody makes a firm and speedy judgment about us based on our looks, height, attire, and weight. The good thing is, 2 out of 4 of those we can work on. Dress your best to look your best. Having a sharp look with your attire is basically free points, especially if you're not working out. But ideally, we want to be exercising too. Anything that makes us look more attractive will help this bias work in our favor. Our brains and our thought processes are extremely complex. The halo effect clouds our judgment even when we know about it. So the next time you make a judgment about a person, good or bad, ask yourself, is the halo effect in action right now? And really sit and analyze it. Doing this could be the difference between starting a relationship that should have never been started, or rejecting someone who could have potentially been a loyal friend. It's very important to know that how we look will affect how we're treated. Always make sure to present your best looking self to the world, because it does make a difference. I'll end this with a clip of an experiment showing this point. These 2 women were put in an airport with heavy bags and they need help getting them up the stairs. Let's look at how differently their situations go.
First up, Ruth. How long before a knight in shining armor rescues this damsel in distress?
Oh, that's so kind of you.
Helped at last, but by 2 women, and it took 45 seconds. Now Rebecca's turn. How long before she's rescued?
Would you mind? Just shattered. I'm just trying to get to the top of those stairs there. Can you do the other one at the same time?
All of 8 seconds. You'd be forgiven for thinking that this caveman behavior is more about sex than chivalry. But there's more to it than that. We have a tendency to think highly of beautiful people,
Because they are very, very
and we want to be near them, as if some of their glory will reflect onto us.
Have you got a few minutes to spare? Because if he doesn't turn up, I'd need to get them into a taxi up there. I'm going to be really rude now and ask one more favour. Could you lend me some money?
How much you need?